Jose looked back at the previous pre-draft press conferences, and saw what John Lynch had to say about other players who were up for a fifth-year option that got them picked up. What'd you find?
Well, in 2 years ago, right, we found that Mike McGlinchey's got his picked up. He announced it, and you guys are going to come out here later. Yeah, we're going to pick his up. Now, it might not have been officially. It doesn't matter. He announced it there. We're going to pick it up. Following ensuing year, Nick Bosa. When you guys walk out of this press conference, it's probably going to be an announcement. We picked up Nick Bosa's.
Yeah.
With the page to now, Javon Kinlaw, Brandon Aiyuk, but more highlighted Aiyuk because I think we all know Kinlaw's not getting picked up. He was hushed. First, he was hushed off with your trade question, which I thought was an eyebrow raiser. Then he goes on when they get asked about Kinlaw and Aiyuk, he goes, well, I like to wait and see through a draft.
Why?
What? No, you don't. The other two players you've announced multiple times and years in a row that they have been picked up. Brandon Aiyuk suddenly is who seems the most obvious. Just I would like to think they're grouped up with those other two, McGlinchey and Bosa. You're not going to announce his. I get you have another pick you to consider and stuff like that. And the counter would be like, well, they got to consider Kinlaw, stuff like that. It's like, yeah, but years past, they've already told these players and had a decision made. So either one, if they haven't told them yet, oh my God, what are you guys doing? This is kind of Bush League. You haven't told them yet. And number two, are you afraid that he's going to be all sensitive to it? Then come on, that's wild. This is the pros. Grow up. So to me, it's like the only other option is the only reason why you have not picked it up is because you're shopping him. You're considering that because if you pick that up, another team might be like, he's got that $14 million option there. Because what if a team would rather acquire him over the draft and have that option to consider, decline it, extend him anyways, or pick it, whatever option. The point is you give that flexibility to the team that's acquiring him. So to me, I think now what I didn't think was possible, I officially think he is definitely being shopped.
Yeah, the way I look at it is he made it sound like Brandon's going to be on this team this year because probably he will be. I think there's a scenario where they would trade him. I mean, there's a scenario where you would trade anyone, but for him, it's probably like, well, we know the Giants like him. That's been reported. The Giants have the 25th pick. So maybe there's one player the Niners would be interested in at pick 25. And if he's available, the Niners pick up the phone and call the Giants and say, let's do it. And maybe there's a 15% chance that player will be available at pick 25 from the Niners' perspective. But, if it's a certain wide receiver or a certain offensive tackle or a certain tight end, they'll do it. I don't know. And so I don't know who it is. I don't know what the likelihood is, but I can see that being the scenario here.
I think that's the only scenario because you would not want to trade Aiyuk, a guaranteed guy who's continued to ascend. And you kind of do need him for 2023, right? This is your all-in year again, which is why they're not really giving Trey Lance too much of a shot, right? Is you have to keep him on. So unless the way that the chips fall, you're starting to get, okay, now I see where it's going. I see where it's going. Kind of the same way with Aiyuk, right? When they drafted him, it's like, okay, we see the way it's going. We got to leapfrog we got to do it. We got to leapfrog the Packers. We got to do it. They're going to draft him. So I think that's the only way you do it is if it gets down to the Giants or if it gets down to the Chargers or the Ravens, because those are other teams who I think, or the Jaguars. Those are the teams I think who, number one, needed another wide receiver. And they definitely could accompany them. And, that makes sense. You got the mid-20s. That sounds like good value for Aiyuk because no one in the top 20s really would go after him. So I think in terms of that, I think if you're the Niners, it's depending on. I didn't think about too many about prospects. Like I don't think they're going to go for another wide receiver. I think they'll try to get the later rounds for one, especially because I don't think in terms of top prospect wide receivers outside of Jackson, Smith, and Jigba, I haven't even seen Jordan Addison not being viewed as a first round pick. And I was like, really? Wow. Okay. So it's looking very bleak this year. It's more so like a day 2 or day 3 for receivers. So I don't think the Niners do that. I think it's more so like what are the needs? Who they got to replace? Offensive tackle, right? Trent Williams, right tackle's vacant. Tight end George Kittle, who knows? And then maybe another edge rusher or whatever. So those are the ones I think they would be looking at if the way the draft board falls.
Yeah, I don't know what they're looking for. Maybe it's a position, a player. But let's say the 25 is the highest they could get for Brandon Aiyuk. And let's say they want a wide receiver to replace him. Maybe they would be interested in drafting Quentin Johnston from TCU. But he's currently ranked 22nd on Draft Tech, and he might not be available. And they may not like him. If they want an offensive tackle, maybe it's Darnell Wright from Tennessee, the right tackle who's 6'5", 333 that they want. He's currently ranked 20th on Draft Tech, so he might not be there either. And if it's a tight end, maybe they want Michael Mayer, who's currently ranked 17th. So those are guys they could say like, hey, if one of those 3 guys falls, we think that's a blue chip, franchise cornerstone player. We'll do it. Otherwise, no. And it's possible none of those guys will be there. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's why you keep. This is a big reason why you keep that flexibility. It's just like we have an idea where some of these players can fall, but we don't know because all it takes is one team to really mess up everyone's draft board, right? It just messes up. It's almost like March Madness, but on a lesser scale, obviously, because March Madness is crazy. It's like all it takes is for one game to ruin your bracket, and all it takes for one team to all of a sudden just whoa! Now all of a sudden the dominoes, the whole butterfly effect change down the line. That's too much. Why I don't like to get so entrenched into the draft until like weeks before because you get more of a clear picture of where these guys are going, what teams are feeling. So I think the Niners by now have an idea, and hopefully that's why you hold on to Aiyuk and you make a trade on that draft night if you are going to trade him.
If they do trade Brandon Aiyuk, they'll sell it as, we never thought this guy would be available and love Brandon, but we love this guy too. Nah, it's a business decision if they trade Brandon Aiyuk, just like it was a business decision when they traded DeForest Buckner. And the decision is, it's not really smart to spend a ton of money on him and Deebo Samuel. But the problem isn't Aiyuk, it's Deebo. The problem is that they gave Deebo Samuel a ridiculous contract. And that has sort of made keeping Brandon Aiyuk tricky at best. And so I think they could do it, and I'm sure they're prepared to do it, but there's also probably tempted to, hey man, we could be so much more financially, efficient at this position if we trade him for another wide receiver who, is just as talented, just as highly graded, but younger and on a rookie deal. So that's the business decision they would make. See what they do.
Yeah, they definitely can do it. And again, the only reason why you're able to do it is because you still have no answer at quarterback, and the quarterback's not taking much of any of your salary cap. So that's the main reason why you have all these luxuries and you can do it. And it might benefit you to keep. I mean, it will benefit you to keep Brandon Aiyuk because of the quarterbacks you have. Trey Lance, Brock Purdy. They need that extra talent and help and make Kyle Shanahan play call better to get these guys to uplift themselves and look better than what they can be or should be. But ultimately, I don't think I would. I still don't prefer a Brandon Aiyuk trade. I still think they should better off, trading for him. But again, picking up his option. But again, like you said, business, it makes sense. It's at some point, we got Bosa coming up, other player. You just don't know. So it's like, and at least Aiyuk, as good as he is now, keeps ascending. It's like, that's the one position, one player that could actually technically be replaceable. And I know, again, like you said, the Deebo Samuel contract, but at least for them, it's like, at least he's more special in terms of scheme fit, in terms of the way he fits with us and what he can do. Even though, again, Aiyuk is the better true wide receiver. It's just, it is possible to replace more of a receiver of his skill trait than it is like someone like Deebo. Yeah,
but can you really trade Brandon Aiyuk and improve in 2023, or do you take a step back? Because he's 25, he's at his best. I mean, I understand. Like, I think the template here is when Minnesota traded Stephon Diggs to the Bills and drafted and got a pick back and drafted Justin Jefferson. The offensive coordinator for the Bills was Brian Daboll. He's with the Giants. They're interested to want Brandon Aiyuk. Aiyuk is very similar to Stephon Diggs. So I can see why the Giants would be interested. Daboll's had success with this kind of a trade. The Vikings had success with this kind of a trade, but could the Niners find their Justin Jefferson in this draft? Like, I don't think he's in it. Quentin Johnson would be the guy who might be there at 25. And if he was super good, wouldn't the Giants just draft him? Like, is he the guy the Niners want? Would you really trade Brandon Aiyuk for Quentin Johnson? Is he better than Brandon Aiyuk? I don't know that he is. Do you have an opinion on Quentin Johnson? TCU.
No, I don't, because I'm too focused on the middle round receivers that they could probably get, and you could probably plug in. Of course, it'd be most likely a fall off from Aiyuk, but still probably some enough where you could not make the hole so gigantic where it could shrink it and make it somewhat efficiency. That's why I'm really leaning towards, if the Niners do get like that middle round, that middle 20 pick somewhere around there, is there an offensive tackle that you can instantly plug right there, right tackle, and like be secure enough? It doesn't have to be elite, of course, because there's probably going to be some growing pains, but just someone you can plug right there and they can be like, oh wow, we're actually fairly good there. We're fine. And we actually got like a decent wide receiver. Like, we're good. That's the only way I can see it makes work. Because again, they have a gate. The right tackle is still a question mark. And that's huge. And it's like great. How are you going to get the ball to Aiyuk if you can't pass protect on the right side? What are you going to do? Just hug George Kittle there the whole time? Now you've capped your offense again. You're going to put CMC as a pass pro all the time. So that's why I think if you go for the 20s, you have to, you're kind of forced to go tackle. But if you only do that, again, if there's a tackle or two that we know we really like this guy and we can put him in instantly and work with him as the season goes along.
You got to get like Broderick Jones, Darnell Wright, or Anton Harrison.
Someone that's clear cut. That's like easy,
clear cut, day one starter. Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. All right. Corey Soto says, we talk about the Niners being relevant for the foreseeable future, yet this core is rapidly aging and we have no replacements for key roles. Guess Purdy will carry this team. Yeah, and they basically threw 3 years worth of first round picks away, which could hurt them down the line when it's time to reload. The fact that you like lost a generation of picks, unless you keep Trey, which they don't want to do, which they would rather not. Bass Spokane Niner fan says, "Would a Trey and BA package? What would a Trey and BA package get?"
I'd get first. It depends on who you're getting. Okay, who's the team that could definitely get a quarterback and would? I think that's a great package. That's what I've mentioned. That's what I wrote about in what makes how the 49ers can get more in a Trey Lance package. I said add a player and ideally add Brandon Aiyuk because he's the one that has the best connection. He's also one that actually makes sense from a trade candidate standpoint as well. And if you're a team, it's like I can easily give that at first because it makes sense because I'm getting a guy who has potential. I know he's still raw. I know there's question marks, but at least I have a receiver who will uplift him and one who has connection with them. So it makes sense to really make it in that package. So I think you get it first with him.
I would love to trade for that package if I were another team because I look at Brandon Aiyuk as someone who's been underutilized. Kyle Shanahan is a scheme coach in the sense that he's not going to change what he does too much for his players. He's going to do what he does. And so Brandon Aiyuk's killing it. He's got a great matchup that day. He's like, well, still going to call plays for Christian McCaffrey and Debo and Kittle. And I feel like what you could do is just put him on another team, feature him, give him more touches, and all of a sudden he's way better. And the teams do that all the time. It's kind of Kyle's been holding back Kittle in a sense. Like Kittle's never a red zone threat his whole career. All of a sudden Brock Purdy comes in, scrambles around, throws to Kittle. He's catching all these touchdowns. It's like, damn, Kyle, like maybe your red zone scheme should have been featuring your tight end a little bit more. That was a tangent. Sorry. Good question. Good question.
That question is also kind of funny because I had a reply when I tweeted out those screenshots about a Chiefs podcaster was saying about I would love for the Chiefs to get him. And I'm like, man, the Niners would definitely probably consider trading him for that 31st pick. 32nd pick. Whose pick they have? No, 32nd. Stupid. For the 32nd pick. And he would make Aiyuk instantly a top 8 wide receiver with Mahomes, maybe even top 5. But I took a little bit more cautious. He'd be a top 8 receiver with Mahomes.
It's actually 31 because the Dolphins got their pick. The Dolphins got their pick like they forfeited their pick.
Oh, that's right. I forget about that. I forget it didn't get replaced. It just got nuked. That's right.
It got nuked. Yeah, absolutely.
I was wondering why I was saying 31 at first. I was like, wait, why am I saying that right? But I'm blinking. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. So the 31st pick, end of the round pick, still the same concept. But yeah, that wouldn't be bad.